Hey guys, welcome to Broad Street to Britain, a UK Phillies show with me, Dave Shaw, and as ever, I'm joined by Richard Skinner and Alex Carr as well. If you're watching on YouTube, hello. If you're listening on the podcast, hey! And you can't see us waving, so you've already missed out on some great content. Richard, how are you, buddy? We're well into spring training now, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I said last pod I wasn't paying attention. I thought, okay, I need to lock in a little bit. And I saw Luzardo start. Very impressed. The hype about Walker we'll get into. I'm not buying it. And of course, one man's caught our eye, and Gabriel Rincones, our very own. But Richard, have you ever has spring caught your imagination yet?
I'm really enjoying it because I've realised that if the Phillies win, I can be great. You know, we're winning it all. And if we lose, spring training, who cares? It doesn't matter. So
now you're getting
I'm loving it.
Now you're getting it.
Yeah, like Rincones hits a home run, and like Bohm hits a home run. It's great. You know, Trey Turner doesn't hit at all. He's just having fun. He's challenging pitches down the middle. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, look, you're in mid-season form already, Richard. That's mid-season emotions.
Exactly.
Locked in. Love it. Alex, first time this year we've been able to chat. Great to have you back, buddy. How have you been?
I've been fantastic. I've been great. I am starting to really develop so much of a healthier relationship with the Twitter sphere and the things of that nature. This is great. I get to do whatever I want whenever I want, and it's awesome. No, I'm doing great. Regardless of whether or not you see me tweeting about a game, I'm always watching. Don't worry. And I'm always, loving every minute of it, as I always do. Spring is like one of my favorite times of year. So fun to always get hyped up about random dudes, which I do all the time, and it's great. But I find myself in a much more, I don't know, in a much more watchful place of late. Not so much hype as I am just, oh, that's interesting, and then letting it pass me by. Because I'm very zen these days, Dave. I'm very zen these days, and that's a good thing, I think. But no, enjoying every minute of it.
We'll see how long that lasts when the season starts. I'm very zen. As soon as someone strikes out, that's gone.
Let's get into someone who's definitely caught our eye. We're big on him. Everyone knows it. Gabriel Rincones Jr. Team GB's very own Gabriel Rincones Jr. Future podcast star as well to be on the show again. Cannot wait. 3 home runs, 6 RBIs in 12 at-bats. He's averaging .333, OPS of 1.52. Incredibly inflated stats, I know. However, it's fun because, of course, he's Team GB. We've never had a Team GB repping the Phillies in the majors. It would be amazing. Can he do it? I was looking deeper. Into our guy because he's getting spotted. He's having a great spring. His name is coming out on social media. People are tweeting about Gabriel Rincones. It's amazing. But the biggest thing for him, Topper loves him. Called him a baller. He's a gamer, an impressive boy. Nothing but good things to say about him. Where's the downfalls coming from? So, as John Foley wrote in the article on Patterson, his biggest problem is, if what I can see, is hitting against left-handed pitchers. Really, really struggled last year in 2024, and it sort of makes him redundant behind Marsh and Kepler. That could be his biggest stumbling block. And it would likely be an injury that would get him into the roster, certainly this year at some point. On the flip side, his better chance could be maybe a trade away, and his trade value is starting to rise as he gets spotted. Alex, Gabriel Rincones, are we living a pipe dream, or could we see Team GB's Gabriel Rincones in a Phillies uniform this year?
This year? Sure. Out of camp? Absolutely not. That is not happening. The amount of people that I see saying things like, oh, put him on the 26 man. It's not. It's absolutely not happening. This technology? How about that? How about that, Dave?
For those that are not watching on the podcast, we have Gabriel. We have a clip from Gabriel's.
Dave Shaw is learning, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Shaw is learning. This is sick. Yeah, no, he's not going to crack the opening day roster, barring like 12 injuries, right? But what's awesome about Gabriel and what has always been awesome about Gabriel is that I don't think that's an expectation that he has. And more than that, he is an athlete, first and foremost. You can look, even if you're just scouting him off of his, baseball reference page, right? You see a guy that for his size is able to run relatively well. I'm not going to call him a speedster, but he steals more bags than you would expect,
Yeah.
right? He's athletic in the field. He plays a decent corner outfield, right? But then the big calling card here, and this is why everyone does deserve to get a little bit hyped up here. This is more consistent contact and game power than I have seen out of him ever. And for those of you that know me, I pay a lot of attention to these things. I don't think I've seen this level of consistency in his power in a long time. And the most impressive one to me was that the home run that he hit off of Jose Barrios was great. Went opposite field. That's pretty awesome. The home run he hit the other day was a laser. Yeah. Yesterday was a laser. That was an absolute ripper. And whether or not it's a home run in 1 or 30 major league ballparks, that is a big boy swing. And that's and I think he's already hit a 112 mile per hour line out or something like that this spring as well. But this is a guy with a lot of power. And if he can make enough consistent contact, it doesn't matter if he's a platoon bat or not, right? This is a guy that you probably want on your team. As far as trade value goes, I don't think that that's where the Phillies would find their maximum value out of him here. I think he's a guy that has more value to the team than he does on the open trade market. But also Topper is absolutely right in saying he's a gamer. Like he always has been. This is a guy that went to, I think he was a JUCO kid. I can't fully remember. But he was, not some highly touted major league prospect when, he was selected in the 3rd round in 2021, if memory serves.
Pre-COVID. Yeah, I think it was just before as well.
19 couldn't have been. Was it? Hold on. I'll fact check.
I should know because he came on the show.
I'll fact check myself real time. I think it was 21. Yeah, 2021.
It rings
22. 22 was when he was taken by the Phillies. He was taken by the Padres in 21. But he was not a guy that was expected to, be picked in the 3rd round. The Phillies went overslot with their first 2 picks, and they were like, okay, we'll take a shot on this guy. And they had scouted him well and all the things, right? This is exactly what they were hoping he would turn into. Consistent contact, consistent power. Yeah, he's a talent. He's really, really, really talented.
Baseball America have him as, if he can put his consistency right, which has been slighted, but the injuries didn't help him last year whatsoever. There's a bit of a caveat to last year as he was injured for a good chunk of last season. The left-handed hitting, well, it was 184. I think he was averaging around. If he gets that right, this legit, Richard, we could have a Brit on a Team GB player on the Phillies roster. We could see him in June. I hope no one gets a bad injury to make that happen. Also on the flip side, but I'm excited, buddy. I'm genuinely excited. This could really happen.
Yeah, I totally agree. It'd be cool, and hopefully it potentially gives them some more motivation to come back over. I missed the last London series. They think, maybe in a couple of years, Rincones is doing well.
Imagine.
Well, we've got to come back now, and then I can make it to one, and I can lose my voice with you.
And if Rincones breaks, no, we are living a pipe dream. If Rincones breaks through, is a Phillies outfield star. The Phillies come back to London. They've got their Scottish pin-up boy.
And he hits a walk-off grand slam in London.
Scenes, pitch invasion. It would be crazy.
Bookmark this. Come back to it in 2028.
But there is a lot of reason to be excited about it, specifically because he's facing major league pitching. He's supposed to be behind pitchers in terms of like preparation levels for coming into camp. And he faced, I think every home run he's hit has been off of a major league pitcher in some capacity. Which is, that's about as good as you can ask for as a start to spring training. It's not something to get, don't let yourself run down the road too fast. Those of you that are listening. But no, it's exciting. It's really cool to see, especially in 12 at bats.
I know it's only spring, but it's fun. It's if he gets worked out, the big test for him now is he's getting on the radar. Pitchers are going to start working out how to pitch against him. And that's, again, where he's got to adjust. But it's great for his development. If pitchers having to raise a game against him, knowing what he's all about, well, that's great for him. He's going to see some proper major league pitching.
Poindexter Glass is getting pushed up. The man has as many home runs as he does strikeouts on the spring.
And we like that.
And he's usually somebody who is pretty aware of the strike zone, not necessarily an unfree swinger. He strikes out a good deal. But he's also, he doesn't strike out. I don't think he's eclipsed since his first year in the minors. I don't think he's eclipsed 100 strikeouts. He did his first year, and since he's been limited in playing time, but he hasn't eclipsed 100 strikeouts yet. So
one to watch, folks. One to watch,
definitely.
And we'll have him on next week.
AA or AAA next year.
He ended in AA. I would not be surprised. He's probably going to start there. But I would not be surprised to see him move pretty quickly.
So Richard, I'm thinking Richard.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because
we're going to Lehigh Valley.
There you go.
In June,
we might have a chance.
Because the only reason that I really say that is because he had a killer AFL campaign. He did really well in the Arizona Fall League. I think oh goodness, the power was limited, which was a little concerning. But he walked something like 10 or 11 times to like 6 or 7 strikeouts.
Didn't he finish strong? He started slow but finished strong. If what I saw.
I think he was just walking a lot, so he didn't start slow. He just
the Phils could do with that.
Yeah, well, he just didn't have a lot of at bats. He just had plate appearances, so he was walking a lot. And yeah, he did really well.
If he's playing for Lehigh when we're there, Richard, I'm.
He probably will be. When are you guys going?
So.
June.
June.
When
are
you going?
For the Mets series.
Yeah,
so be around the 18th, 19th of June. Around that
I do strongly believe that he could be there. It really mostly
19th.
It's not a matter of if he's ready or not. The matter is probably how chock full is the Iron Pigs roster, because Cal Stevenson's going to be there. There's going to be so many.
That's a good point.
Outfielders in there that
Crawford's going to be there as well.
Right.
Damn,
it's going to be quite a few folks in Lehigh Valley. So,
man, right, okay. Ty Young Walker, what's going on here? I think I've worked it out right, Alex, because this cannot be legit. If it is, amazing. I love a comeback underdog story. Love it. Ty Young Walker comes out shoving, gives us what we need from a 6 starter. Great. However, his velo's up, and quite significantly from this time last spring, as from what I've been reading. But Topper seems to be all in. Proud of him. He's been on a rigorous off-season. He's owed a lot of money. So we need some use out of him. It makes no sense trading him away for the amount we owe him. But I can't help feel that all this build-up from Topper, from Dombrowski, is baiting other teams to go, hey, look, Ty Young Walker's turned a corner here. Take a pull on him. Look, he looked great in his first outing, although he allowed the run in his first inning. But his velo is up. He wouldn't even make the rotation as a 6 starter. What? Because Ross would be the 6 starter, if anything. So where does he fit? I can't help feel that the Phils are pushing for a trade and trying to get teams. Look at this boy. We're so proud of him. He's worked hard off season. Look, he'd be great for you guys. I don't know. That's my fear in this, Alex. Where are you?
It's kind of why the Joe Ross signing didn't make a ton of sense. And in my opinion, I thought it made a lot of sense if you were going to get rid of Taijuan Walker. Didn't really make a ton of sense if you were just keeping Taijuan Walker around. That being said, I think that it's silly to cut bait with, releasing him is one thing. Release him and then he's going to get picked up by another team, no question, because he costs league minimum, right? But releasing him is one thing. Trading his money off the books and that coming at the expense of some, kind of prospect, that doesn't make any sense to me. I would much rather just let him ride out as the mop-up man and let him try and find something, salvage some kind of value, do something that, makes his contract somewhat palatable. But at the end of the day, I think that if we all kind of have our own theories about what Taijuan Walker has been going through in his time here in Philadelphia, I think there's just a lot of miscommunication going on. I don't think he's necessarily following the the things that the Phillies probably are trying to impress upon him that to make him the kind of starter that they wanted him to be. I think there's a little bit of pushback there. I think that the velo bump that you're seeing now is probably what to do with what the Phillies were trying to get him to do in the first place. And I think last year was kind of rock bottom for him. So he was like, okay, I'll try anything, right? Well, he goes and leaves with this training program, and he takes a really rigorous summer or spring. Oh, you know what I'm trying. Winter
off season.
Winter off. Takes some time, right? And goes through this rigorous training program, whatever that may be. Comes back, refines his mechanics, and lo and behold, starts to see some results, right? I think personally, the only way that he's going to see play in a Phillies uniform is out of the bullpen. That's barring some kind of
as a long man, yeah,
like that. Yeah, as a mop-up man. I don't even think long man is a word that you can use. I think Joe Ross is the long man. I think Taijuan Walker is the mop-up man. I think if you are down 6-0, Taijuan Walker is coming in the game, right? Like
yeah.
that's kind of where he'll be stretched out as a starter, but used as a a mop-up guy. I think that's the only way it makes sense to keep him on the roster. The thing is, and I was thinking about this the other day, if he manages to reclaim any kind of value whatsoever at all, period, end of story, at the trade deadline, the Phillies have shown that they will deal from their major league bullpen to acquire upgrades to their major league bullpen and or elsewhere on the roster.
Yeah.
I think it is so fascinating that the Phillies have Andrew Painter. The Phillies in the postseason are going to have 2 of the guys in their rotation bumping to the bullpen. They've got Mick Abel. They've got Griff McGarry, maybe. I think that is still a long, long way away. But now we've seen the rise of like John McMillan. We've seen some of these guys that they've signed to minor league deals start to really put some stuff together. You have some prospects that are waiting in the wings. I think another Dombrowski kind of deadline where you deal Taijuan Walker, who maybe has like a 4.2 ERA, and some team is like, yeah, he'll throw 80 innings for us down the stretch. Maybe we'll just add him to take some pressure off of some of our other arms, right? Maybe they deal somebody like Joe Ross, right? Maybe they deal somebody like, I don't know, deal from the major league bullpen to acquire prospect capital to then shift that and acquire upgrades to the bullpen. Who's to say, right? But I think cutting bait with him now is silly. Let him show some flashes of resurgence and let him be another team's issue down the line. But right now, I think as a mop-up guy, sure. Why the heck not? Throw some
All right.
Do it.
All right. Onto a pitcher who is I'm getting a little giddy about. Luzardo. I know we've had one spring training outing out of him. Already his velo was ridiculous. The guy not topping out at 97. Okay, it dropped a bit in the second inning. And JT says it feels like we have 1 number 1 and then 4 number 2s, which is legit. Although what the hell, say Sanchez couldn't actually be a number 1 at some point this year as well. The level that he could get to. We'll get to that in a minute. Luzardo said himself his arm feel alive. And it just got me thinking again, maybe pipe dream, but what if Luzardo shows what he could have been pre-injury and more? Like, what if he does hit that Cy Young level again? Like, this rotation becomes freaking scary all of a sudden. Wheeler, an improved, even better, growing Sanchez, Luzardo on some insane form, which could happen. It really could. There's no reason why, if he stays healthy, staying healthy is a big, big thing. Touch wood that happens. I've just got a feeling that this could be one of the most under the radar, brilliant signings out of nowhere, and everyone's screaming for that big arm. We could have a legit ace right here. And I know it's early days, it's one spring training, but it just got me thinking, like, what if? There's no reason why not. Luzardo said he's never felt better. And of course, I love these quotes. Thrive on them, gets me going. Yeah. But this Luzardo, I just have a feeling this could be a secret weapon we've picked up here that is going to be not very secret for much longer. And all of a sudden, people are going to look at our rotation and go, hey, Dodgers and Phillies could be pound for pound rotation-wise, neck and neck.
I think that is definitely the case already. I don't think Luzardo has to be some, remarkable Hey, Taiwan. But I don't think Luzardo has to be some kind of ace to be considered, the best. Again, he's probably not the Phillies' number 5 starter at this point, but to be considered the best number 5 in baseball. He is. I think people really forget that he struck out 200 something batters in 2023, and that he was also not really aided by a terrible Miami Marlins defense, and all the things that go along with that. But Jesus Luzardo is so talented, and the fact that the changeup has come as far as it has.
Oh, it looks nasty.
So he's taking kind of that Christopher Sanchez route. Changeup got 4 whiffs. It got the majority of his whiffs the other day. The slider is disgusting. So that is that's the very interesting thing about Jesus Luzardo. He's gross. He's really gross, but now he's got 3 really, really, really effective pitches. And more than that, again, I will reiterate, right? Some of these guys, either 2 of probably Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez, and Jesus Luzardo, and then 1 of Andrew Painter, are going to be in your bullpen come the playoffs. It is absolutely insane that this rotation looks the way that it does heading into the season. Obviously, injuries can happen, knock on wood. Things can go awry, but as things currently stand, the Phillies are looking at having probably the best pitching staff post-trade deadline, I hope. Probably the best pitching staff in the playoffs. And as we all know, pitching wins championships.
That's my line. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. but it's really impressive. I mean, Jesus has he's looked really good. Everything appears to be right on track. He was a guy that people were just calling an ace before, he broke out in 2023. And now I think he broke out the year prior even, but had a great year in 2023. And then, now I don't know if he can stay healthy, if everything can stay good, he's going to be
he was my fantasy baseball go-to guy when he was hot. He was regular big points.
Disgusting.
I was thinking Nola could legit be, number 2 starter, but 4 or 5 in the rotation. Wheeler. I know Topper said he's thinking about separating Wheeler.
He has to. He really has to.
It would be probably Wheeler. We're saying Sanchez, then Nola, maybe Luzardo. If he really starts on fire.
Wheeler, Sanchez, Nola is going to be your top 3, and then I think depending on who you're facing, Ranger and Jesus might kind of flip-flop, just because you don't want the same team that's seeing Christopher Sanchez to see Jesus Luzardo. They're pretty similar pitchers.
I think this benefits Nola because there's going to be less pressure on him. We've got an elite rotation where Nola's outings, of course they're important, of course they're crucial, but there's less. If he has, I don't know. I just feel like it's less pressure on him now. He's not the main. He's not the main pitcher. Luzardo is hungry. I feel Luzardo. He feels like he's got unfinished business. The injury knocked him completely off his stride. He was on such a level that I think he believes he can get back to, which is going to benefit us. And I think Nola would be actually fine with taking the 3, possibly from 4 slot. And what he gives you would take any day as a 3 or 4 slot. You still got a great pitcher. And then, like you said, Suarez has got a big year ahead of him. This is a really big year for Ranger Suarez. His contract year, I believe, for Ranger, am I right? So he's playing for his future right now, wherever it may be. But
to me, that's a big thing to watch this year because he's stone cold. I love Ranger. I think everybody loves Ranger. That's a big thing to watch. I think that if there is any, we saw last year, a lot of teams competitive made trades with one another. And I think Ranger will be in high demand. Starters always are, right? But Ranger specifically, with all his playoff experience, with all his bumping every which way, slotting into different, parts of your pitching staff, I think he will be a big commodity. And I think that there will probably be some big rentals out there. Not to name any names, but Kyle Tucker, I don't see the Cubs really doing a lot. This year.
I would take Kyle.
That's going to require some prospects, but you can definitely kind of load your bullets because you have Andrew Painter in the wings. You've got, Joe Ross, Taiwan Walker. As much as I know Phillies fans would hate to see it, right? But that is a really real thing. And Ranger, I don't know, becomes kind of redundant in the playoffs.
The early season for Rangers, I think, really important because if it is cold, and if he starts cold, it's again, he's a little bit like Bohm. He's very mentally. If he's not feeling it, it can go horrible for Ranger.
But no visa issues, so everyone's here, everyone's around, everyone's going to be ready to go. Rangers' first full season pitching was last year. Lest we forget, he was like the best pitcher in baseball for half a year, right? So obviously, if he's performing at that level, he's not going anywhere, right? But
no, we have the best rotation in baseball.
I mean, we've got the Dodgers early, so he's going to have to perform.
We do, yeah.
Just
second and third
week.
Though.
Yeah, it's the third series. Yeah, we got the Nats and then the Rockies.
Oh, sorry, Rich. At this point, Phillies have to be open to anything. They have to be. The window is not. People say the window's closing quickly. It's really not. There's only 2 guys on your team that are in their 30s that are here long term. Right, outside of obviously Nolan Wheeler and things like that, but that are here long term. So the window is not really closing, but the current window that they currently have, it's these older veteran players that they have, this really lovable and wonderful team that is coming to a head here, and the Phillies need to make sure that they capitalize. So I would not be looking at Dave Dombrowski to be, kind of tiptoeing around dealing prospects when the trade deadline comes around.
Very, very quickly, Chris Sanchez, like next level. Like from what I've seen already, he's looked well. His highlights from spring already are on the screen now. This guy, I think he can go next level. There's no reason why not. He can be up there with Wheeler. Like if he carries this on, I'm so excited for this year of Chris Sanchez and what he could become, Alex. Are you, from what we've seen so far, it's all very encouraging signs.
Yeah.
This would be huge for the Phils.
He, as effortless as the velocity looks, it looks the same as last year, but it's 2.5 miles per hour faster.
Yeah.
As effortless as the velocity looks, as disgusting as the changeup looks already this year, as good as the new cutter works with the slider, it feels like he's not really going to struggle getting right-handed batters out at all. And then left-handed batters, I feel like with that new fadeaway combo, it just feels like he's up there at this point.
We just need to do it on the road a bit more because his home road splits last year were insane.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of that is. I remember he's really young, but also I think a lot of that is probably coincidental. And also just familiarity's sake. It's nice to be at home. It's nice to have the home crowd behind you. But I think he's kind of cemented himself a little bit more at this point. To where, I don't know. It feels like he's going to be a pretty great pitcher, which is shocking because, my gosh, I hated that trade when it happened. I feel like now it's the happiest I've ever been to, just sit back, relax, and watch it unfold. And that's not to say that Curtis Mead isn't going to be good. It's just to say Christopher Sanchez, what he's already been able to do is better. And that's awesome.
Man, I'm pumped. I'm pumped. And this would happen. I needed this podcast. Now I really just talking about the pitching alone. Very, very quickly, we'll round it up because I know we're short on time. Marchand, ready to start season backup catcher? Yeah, should happen.
Yep. Also, weird thing, Christopher Sanchez is older than Jesus Luzardo. For anybody that didn't know that.
I did not know that. And that just makes me more excited.
I had to make sure.
How old was Luzardo?
Luzardo is 27, which I feel like a lot of people felt like he was like 30 when they traded for him. But no, he's very young.
Peak.
Yeah, he's very good. But yes, Marchand, I don't even think it's a question anymore. I think
he's looked good. By the way, Marchand, I know again, late spring training, but again, encouraging.
It's just health. Health is the only thing that is going to make it a little
needed to stay fully healthy. I want to see him more regular, and I want to see if he really could be the everyday, what he would be like as an everyday, because they are going to drop JT's workload this year. They've already said he can't sustain that as
that's why Marchand is going to be the guy. That's why, because they are going to help take some pressure off, and they need a guy that's going to give them some competitive at-bats. I love Garrett Stubbs. I know that a lot of people just love to hate Garrett Stubbs at this point, which is ridiculous to me. But I think that Marchand is far and away not only the better defensive catcher by leaps and bounds, but the better hitter. Even with the lack of power, he just somehow manages to find the gaps, which is really important. So I think he's the guy.
I was going to do a bit on Bohm, but we'll leave that for the next show. In fact, we got time. We got time?
I got some time.
Bohmer, big year for him. Make or break. It feels like it could be a make or break for our boy Alec. We had this conversation actually started last season in spring, and he did. He had a near 100 RBI year. Injury probably ruined that for him. But the way he ended last year, he's gonna get it from opposing fans. He's gonna go to opposing ballparks. He's gonna get it. People know how to get into his head, and that's something he's gonna have to challenge this year. Unfortunately, natural nature of sport. Unfortunately, but Alex, where are you on Bohmer? I think he's going to be fine. I think he still is going to give us a near 100 RBI year. His springs look encouraging. 2 home runs yesterday, hit with Oppo. Good pop. It would be good to see some more power out of Alec. Defensively, I got no problems with him defensively. I think he's absolutely fine defensively. But do you think it's a bit of a make or break year for Alec this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's more than just a make or break year for him with the Phillies. It's a make or break year for him in terms of like what his free agency is going to look like, right? He is a guy that you just need to see hit for more power. He is a third baseman. He is not, a second baseman or a shortstop or a, left fielder, right? He's a guy that, left fielder usually hits for more power, but he's a guy at a position where you usually have a chunky bat. He's got to learn to manipulate his pull power more. That has always, always, always been the case with him. And then when he hits it to the opposite field, it can't just be a half-hearted, I'm just trying to make contact swing, because he is so rawly powerful that those end up traveling 320 feet, which is awesome, but they land in gloves, right? So he needs to really be swinging with a little bit more conviction, needs to be making sure that his pitch selection is a little bit better, needs to be pulling the ball more. I think a lot of the time he's just focusing on not striking out and not making contact. And that kind of leads to some lesser optimal placements, which is, it's got to, but defensively, like you said, Dave, one of the biggest turnarounds I've ever seen. And it's very, 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 very rare because he's a 6'5" third baseman, of which there have only been 2 that have been like relatively decent defensively in Troy Gloss and Chris Bryant, right? So this is famously a not great workable height for a third baseman, but that's also what makes it awesome. He's able to leap and catch those, scorching line drives, and he's able to do all these crazy things, right? So it's just imperative that he really, I don't know, the mental side of the game is going to be the biggest part, but he just really needs to be using more conviction and being a little bit smart at the plate. But I'd like to hear from Rich. Rich, where are you at with Alec Bohm? Are you sick and tired of him?
No, I think everyone's kind of right. Like Davey said, like he's done well so far in spring training. We know he's a good player. Like we know he's got the ability. Doing it in spring's fine. The question is, like you say, can he do it when the opposing fans are getting at him? When maybe we're down in a game, maybe he's had a few at bats that aren't great. That's really, I think, where we're going to see where Alec Bohm's at this year. Can he? It's the mental side for me. Like you say, defensively he's great. We saw the struggles when Alec Bohm wasn't at third base last year. It was downright painful at times. Like just errors and he's a great guy to have there. It's just, can he put it together and can he do it consistently? Absolutely, it's make or break. I mean, last year he kind of did both. He made it at the start of the year and then he kind of broke it at the end of the year. I think if you said like halfway through last season, would we be questioning Alec Bohm's place on the team? It's like, I don't think anyone would believe that was happening.
It was clutch. It was so clutch. It was like Mr. Reliable. Every time an RBI situation came up, Bowman would come through. He was big in doubles also. The injury rocked him, and he struggled. I kind of feel maybe that he had that funny hand injury, didn't he? Which everyone said they're going to shut him down, and they didn't shut him down properly.
They probably should have.
Half-assed it a little bit.
Hand injuries are really, really tough. They're really, because when you can't, first of all, when you can't grip the bat all the way, that's a challenge. When you're meeting a 100-mile-per-hour projectile with a stick of wood, and the first thing that's going to feel the impact is your hand, right? So then you either decide to power through, or maybe you like wince a little bit and you let go. Well, then half the charge is gone from, behind the ball. So it's really, injuries are really, really, really challenging.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about, the potential lineup changes going into this year. And if what people are kind of talking about is expecting, like, Bohm's going to have even more pressure on him with where he's at. If we're, if Trey managed to sort out, if he does bat high up and he does get on base, there's going to be a lot more pressure on Alec to do well. If we're trying to say, well, let's get people on base before we hit our runs. If you're now relying on Bohm to hit those runs, I hope he can do it. I hope he can do it.
Well, Absolutely.
There's a difference between hoping and believing. But
the good thing is the 3 spot isn't really like you're hardly looking for your 3-hole hitter to be like your massive pop guy. You're more looking for your 3-hole hitter to be the guy that brings home the run by any means necessary, right? Kyle Schwarber slotting behind that. That's where a player of his profile should be hitting, right? And Bryce Harper hitting 2, we all know the arguments that have made analytically for bumping your best players up, right? It just makes, to me, that makes the most sense. I think the 1, 2, 3, 4 of Trey to Bryce to Alec to Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, there's bumping Bryce up, but you're bumping Kyle down,
right?
And
and Kyle's great, but that's where his home runs are put to the tone setter, all the things, right?
I think that would be my ideal lineup, providing Trey can get better.
I would love to see Stott have a resurgence, because I think if Stott's bat is where it was a couple of years ago, he could be leadoff.
It's criminal that people aren't talking about Brandon Marsh and Bryson Stott.
Here we are.
It's criminal. It's genuinely criminal. That is an 8-9 that is like, so JT Realmuto is your 7-hole hitter, right? Like when you're 8 through 9, your 7 through 9 are players that are actually very good. I don't know. I'm just surprised that nobody's chatting about Brandon Marsh and Bryson Stott, who both had relatively down years based on what their career production has been from an offensive standpoint. So it's crazy.
Brandon Marsh, I was going to say for the next show, because I think it's quite a big year for him next year as well. But Stotty, he came back into camp. He had this injury from June last year, this elbow bugging him. If that's what they want to put it down to, that's fine. Coming in healthy, says he feels his swing is completely back. He hasn't got to adjust anymore. So let's go off that as a genuine thing. Then if we're going to see more upside to Stott this year, you could put him in the 9 and basically have 2 leadoffs in Stott and Turner going back at times.
Exactly.
Or you could have Stott 1, Turner 2, Bryce 3 if Bohm is not doing it. Kyle Schwarber. Stott resurgence would really open up your options. It's great. It would really, really help.
Do you know what's one for the future? Like, definitely not for today. But we're talking about players who aren't being talked about. I feel like we haven't mentioned Castellanos once. And I've been working on something that people are going to see in a couple of weeks' time. Like, he was amazing last year. Like, so I'm going through all the clips of last year. It's Nick, so I think I'd like to in the future. I think I feel like we haven't mentioned him once this whole offseason, other than a little bit of trade talk early on.
He did have a very unlucky year based on what was expected of him, metrically at least. I'm a little faith, just because I am not partial to guys that are huge chasers. But I do think that is an important. He's obviously.
Let's talk about him in a couple of weeks, shall we?
But I
want to get to him.
If Bryson Stott can manage to, number one, if Brandon Marsh can manage to not get called out on so many called strikes that aren't strikes, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But number 2, if Bryson Stott can start to kind of he got halfway there last year. He walked a lot more, which is awesome because he has a great eye, but then he wasn't swinging, right? That's the important part. He needs to start picking.
It seemed like a confidence thing, but if the injury was legit and he was having to adjust his style, because he looked lost at times, and he generally stood there froze, I generally thought that he just didn't know what to do.
But he also 2023 was insane. He was a Gold Glove finalist.
Yeah,
was
this is what the able doesn't make. This is what the
5-WAR player.
This is where the injury doesn't make sense because defensively he was incredible. And
well, it does. It's going to show up a lot more when you swing rather than when you're playing.
I was thinking bumps and I don't know, but stolen bases. He was still the highest in stolen bases last year, which again, imagine him and Turner on the base paths. You get Rojas on there as well when he's playing. Bryce is not sluggish, you know. Turner's not. There's speed in this team. Speed kills.
It's just a lot of putting the puzzle pieces together for a couple guys in this lineup, and I think that there's enough consistency from the guys you expect to consistently come through that it gives those guys some time to figure it out. So I think a lot of the time you're going to be pretty impressed by. Especially the 7, 8, 9. Again, nobody's talking about JT Realmuto. And JT Realmuto, for as old as he's getting, is still not a terrible hitter. Right?
No, and depth on the bench as well.
And no one's talking about Max Kepler and Citizens Bank
Park. We Kepler.
A pull side hitter.
We've got enough to talk about the whole outfield, I think, at some point.
Pull side hitter that is, healthy again. Had one of the best periphery seasons ever 2 years ago. He's.
Yeah, I've heard enough.
It's going to be really, really interesting. And as much as I still do think they need a right-handed batter to kind of complement Kepler's role, and I do think they could have done more with the bullpen. It's still a really good Major League Baseball team, and I feel like
absolutely. And Kepler's still a big upgrade on I think Merrifield and Dahl from what we had. So there's an upgrade straight away. I like the look of Kepler. All right, well there's some teasers there for their future chosen spring as we build up to the new season. We've dropped some little giddy hints there. I'm buzzing. Oh, and it's only the 3rd of March.
Aren't you always?
Guys, great. We'll wrap it up there because I'm gonna get way ahead of myself. I need to rein it back.
I think we could go for hours.
When I have more time. When I have more time.
We have more time. We'll do a proper season preview show later in the this month before the season starts. Guys, as ever, thank you for watching on YouTube. Thank you for listening on the podcast. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Broad Street to Britain. It's a fan show. We're not too stat heavy, are we? We like to say it how it is. And
two of us aren't.
That's what we got, Alex. Yeah,
oopsie.
Is our man, especially for the prospects, which we will get into in the next show. Well, Alex, I want you to give me who's caught your eye under the radar because we spoke about the main players, we spoke about Rincones, but there's some players there that I'm pretty sure I haven't spotted yet. I need an Otto Kemp update. I've not really been following him much. We picked him up.
So much to talk about.
We'll get it all in. We'll get it all in. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Join us next week. We will have Rincones on the show next week as well. Might do 2 pods next week. It's really give you a treat. But from me, as ever, Dave Shaw, it is Ring the Bell from Richard.
Ring the bell.
And Alex.
Ring the bell, Dave.
Let's go. Awesome.